Hi guys, welcome back to Data Every Day. Today we're looking at a data set of physical activities being performed by people uh, who whose ECG measurements are being taken. So it's just heart monitoring and stats from each of the sensors. So there's two sensors. One is a left ankle sensor and one is a right lower arm sensor. And we have two metrics that we're recording, which would be the acceleration and a gyro, which I assume is like rotation. And then we have the X, Y, and Z for each of those metrics and for each of these sensors. So we have 12 features in total, 3 for each metric, and so 6 for each sensor. Alright, so let's hop in the notebook. We're going to use NumPy and Pandas for working with the data, PyPlot and Seaborn for visualizing a confusion matrix. For pre-processing, we'll use the train test split function and standard scalar from sklearn. Then we'll use a logistic regression model and we'll evaluate the performance using the confusion matrix and classification report from sklearn. So let's go ahead and import that. And we can load in the data using pandas.read.csv. We just have to grab the file path over here. Let me just zoom up on this. So we'll grab the file path and I'll just paste that in and we can take a look. So I think there's quite a few rows of this data set. We have 1.2 million rows. So I think we're actually probably going to drop some of these or just use a subset of the data just so that we save on training speed. So data.info will give us a little more information, see if we have any missing values, and no missing values by the looks of it. And we only have one object column, which is the subject. And the subject we're not going to use. We want to build a model that's invariant to changes in who is doing it. So we're going to drop the subject column when we're doing the pre-processing. So let's create a function called preprocess inputs. And this is going to take in a data frame. For now, all it will do is copy over the data frame. First thing we're going to do is drop the subject column. Yeah, alright, that's fine. So df equals df.drop subject from axis 1. And we can get the pre-processed version of the data down here, store it in X. Pre-process. Whoops. Alright, so subject is gone. And I want to sample from each class so that we have an even class distribution and just so that we're using less data. So if we look at x sub activity dot value counts, so the class distribution of the activity column, you can see we have like 872,000 of these, and then roughly the same amount for all of these, a few less here. So what I'm going to do is just take 2,000 of each class and use that as our data frame. So just so that we're not working with a million rows, it'll take a long time to train if we have that much data. So let's sample 2,000 examples from each class. So what I'll do is create an empty list called samples, and then it'll iterate through each of the labels. So for every, I'll call them categories. For each category in df sub activity dot unique. So for each class from 0 until 12, and I think 0 refers to no activity being performed. You can see here we have the activities labeled from 1 to 12, so I'm assuming that 0 means no activity, but it doesn't say here. Right, so if we do .unique, we just get a list of all of these. So for each one of these, we're going to sample 2,000. Well, give me 1 second. Okay, we're going to sample 2,000 from each category. So we can do this by creating a slice and using the query function. So if I query x with a string saying, okay, activity equals 1, that will return all the rows. We have 30,000 of them. where activity is 1. So we can use this to just take a slice of containing a single activity and then sample from that. So we'll do this in here. Just change x to df, and instead of just checking 1, we want to check for a given category. So the way to reference environment variables within a query string is with the @ sign. So when activity equals category, whichever category we're on, that will become the category slice. And then we just sample from the category slice. So category slice.sample 2000 examples, and we'll include a random state, so we always do it in the same way. And we're now going to take this sample of 2000 examples and put that into our samples list. So samples.append this sample. Then when we're done, we're going to take all of the individual data frames that are in sample and in samples and concatenate them together with pandas.concat. So I'll store this back into dataframe df and use pandas.concat samples. And we're concatenating along axis 0, which means on top of each other. And once they're all put together, I'm just going to shuffle the data. Since they're all going to be in order, I want to shuffle it up. So we'll use a sample function again, but we'll include fraction is 100%, and give it a random state. So this will sample 100% of the data without replacement, which is the same as shuffling. And after that, we'll reset the index so that we get consecutive indices. And I'll include drop equals true in here so that we don't end up with the old indices as a new column. Alright, here's x. We now have 26,000 rows. So if we look at the value counts here, you see we have 2,000 of each example. And they're all shuffled, so hopefully this is a nice balanced data set that we can use to train. Alright. Now, we already dropped the subject column. I guess we're pretty much done. We just have to split and scale the data. Since we're already dealing with numeric data, we know we have no missing values. Let's split df into x and y. Y is going to be the label column, so that's activity. And x is all the rest of the data, so I'm going to drop activity from axis 1. And then we'll do our train test split. So I'll send 70% of the data to the test set, to the train set, and the other set 30% to the test set. So we'll use the train test split function from sklearn, pass in x and y, specify our train size, 0.7, keep shuffle equals true, and then give it a random state so we can reproduce the shuffle. This will again shuffle the data before it makes a split, and the random state ensures we can reproduce the results. So let's return these 4 sets of data now and look at xtrain. So we have 70% of the data here, and the target column is now contained in ytrain. So we'll look at value counts of that, and you can see they're roughly equal. So the train test split made them slightly imbalanced. Okay, so what do? We should scale the data. So if we look at xtrain.describe, you can see the means are not all the same, and a model like logistic regression, which is what we're using, prefers that our means are all the same, and usually it's best if they're centered at 0. And we want the variance or standard deviation, not the same thing, but we want it to be 1. So when since standard deviation is square root of variance, when the variance is 1, the standard deviation will also be 1. So we just want to get this to 1 and these to 0 to improve the performance of the model. For that, we'll use the standard scalar from sklearn. So let's scale x and create our standard scalar. Now we want to fit the scalar just to the train set and transform both train and test using the fit that we had just to the train set. So we want to pretend we don't have access to the test set at the time of preprocessing. So we'll use scalar.transform to do this. But this transform function returns a numpy array. So if I run this, you'll see it's been scaled, but we can't see it like a data frame, so let's turn it into 1. And we'll keep the indices the same as they were. and we'll keep the column names the same as they were. And we'll copy this over and do exactly the same thing for xtest. Alright, there it is. If we now look at describe, you should see we have 0 mean all across and 1 standard deviation. So we're good to go. Value counts are still the same. Alright, now let's train. So we're going to create our logistic regression model and fit this model to the train set. Then we'll get the accuracy value returned from the model score function evaluated on the test set, and we'll print out the accuracy. Whoops, spoilers. Test accuracy. Display this to 2 decimal places as a percentage and format using acc times 100. So we multiply by 100 to get it as a percent. Alright. Alright, and we have 55% accuracy. So, you know, take it or leave it. It's not so great. I tried using more training examples. It really didn't go up by much. I got it a little closer to 56, but it didn't. It's really, this is capped by the quality of the data. So there may just be a very little relationship between these features and the activity column. However, in some classes we're doing okay. So for this I want to use a confusion matrix. So to create a confusion matrix, we need to generate a set of predictions first. So we'll call this ypred, and that will come from model.predict on the test set. Then we'll create our confusion matrix using the confusion matrix function from sklearn. We just pass in ytest and ypred, and we'll call it cm. I also want to specify the order of labels. So if we look at these labels, I want to visualize it from 0 until 12 consecutively. So I'm going to set the labels explicitly to be a list of a range of 13. So range 13 will generate numbers 0 through 12, and then turning it into a list, we'll specify them directly. Alright, we'll also do a classification report. So I'm going to call this one CLR for classification report, and use the function from sklearn. That's the same thing, except we want to specify some target names to use. So target names allows you to like rewrite the actual name of the label so you can visualize it better, or see it in the classification report. So for that I want to use this. We're just going to grab this, which is the list of labels. And what we'll do is up here we'll create an activity labels, and create a dictionary and paste this in. So what we'll do is go here and select all the lines, delete the L, and then move over, and you know what I'll do is actually I'll grab this and then I'll grab over here so that it's lined up, and I'll use quotations, end of line, quotations, delete that second quotation, and then comma, and now we have essentially a dictionary that maps a label we have to the actual meaning of the label. And I want to add one in for none, which is not in this list here, which is the 0 label. Alright, so we run that. Now we can use that. We can use activity labels dot values as our target names, and so that will be the values of the key value pairs, and that will match up with all of our labels. Okay. Now let's plot the confusion matrix. So we'll create a pie plot figure with a figure size of 10 by 10, and use Seaborn's heat map to generate the confusion matrix. Pass in CM, turn on annotations. I'm going to include format equals G like this so that we don't see it in scientific notation. We want to see the classification counts in integers. Then vmin is 0. That's the lowest possible color value. Give it a color map of blues, and I'm going to turn off the color bar. So let's show that. Alright, and we can see the confusion matrix. Let's spice it up a little bit. I'm going to give it some tick marks. So plt.xticks allows us to set the x tick marks, and we specify the spacing with ticks. That will be a numpy a range containing 13 values, one for each label, and this is just the spacing. So I'm going to shift over the spacings by 0.5 so that these tick marks land in the middle like they are now. If we don't shift by 0.5, the tick marks will be on the edges like that. So we want to shift them over to be in the middle. Then the labels, we're going to use this activity labels.values again. Alright, now we'll copy this over and do y ticks the same way. And then we'll give an x label, as this is the axis label, predicted. And the y-axis label will be actual. Then finally we'll give it a title, which is confusion matrix, and we'll show it. Alright, so they're overlapping. So we can fix this by going into the x ticks and setting rotation equals. And in the x we should have 90, and for the y we should have 0. After this, let's print out the classification report. So I'll just put some hyphens. And put in CLR. And let's take a look. Alright, and here it is. So we can see the activity and then the classifications for that activity. And as you can see, there are a few activities here with very good performance. There's actually two, which is the lying down for 1 minute and cycling for 1 minute. So the model is not confusing other examples to be these examples. When it comes to these, you can see the model is not making too many misclassifications across the row. And same actually for lying down, there's not a single misclassification. The precision, which is this, is saying misclassifying other classes as this, is also quite good. So in both of these cases, actually in this one not so much. We have 55 and 62 misclassifications. It's saying we're looking at sitting and relaxing and saying that it's cycling. So that's not good. And then none doesn't seem to have, any sort of it didn't really seem to know what to do with none, because none it seems like it's predicting none to be any of the other classes. But it looks like standing still and sitting and relaxing is what we're predicting none to be the most. Actually, this one too, which is waist bends forward. So I don't really know what it's doing. In terms of the most misclassifications, we can see this one, which is 142. Here we're taking a standing still example and misclassifying it as waist bends forward. So I'm not sure why that's so high. Maybe the sensors are doing a very similar thing in those cases. But in general, we do get sort of a nice diagonal here. However, there are quite a few misclassifications in the dataset. Down here, we can get the classification report, which just gives us a sort of ranking of each class and how well we're doing. And you can see the F1 score is sort of a combination of precision and recall. And you can see for none, we have a really low F1 score. So F1 score can range from 0 to 1. 1 means you got everything right. 0 means you got everything wrong. But in between is sort of a measure of how well the class is doing across precision and recall metrics. So you can see that lying down we have a 9.8. This is definitely our best class. This means we have good precision and recall in this class, lying down. And the worst one is definitely none with a 0.07 F1 score, because our precision is not great, but our recall is really bad. Alright, and that will sum up today's video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more content, and leave any comments you have in the section below. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day.